If you are pregnant or you've recently had a baby, this podcast is for you. I am your host, Kath Bequee, a physiotherapist working in women's health and mum of three. Inside my online program, Fitness Mama, I just love helping support women to care for their bodies during pregnancy, prepare their bodies for birth, and support their after-birth recovery, helping them feel confident and strong inside out during this important stage of their lives. In this podcast, join me each week as we dive into all things pregnancy care, childbirth and postnatal recovery, helping you through every step of the journey. It is absolutely possible to feel amazing and confident in our bodies during this motherhood journey, and I want that for you. Come and say hi to me on Instagram @fitnessmama, and let's dive into today's episode. Well, hello there. It's great to have you here for another episode of the Pregnancy, Birth and Recovery podcast. In today's episode, I chat with the lovely Lauren Brenton, who is a midwife, childbirth educator and mum of four. In this chat today, Lauren tells us a little of her motherhood journey, which includes 4 caesarean births, and the last one was a maternal assisted caesarean birth. So Lauren describes how this experience of a maternal assisted caesarean was different from her previous 3 C-section experiences. Lauren shares her tips which helped with her afterbirth recovery, and she's got some amazing advice for pregnant women or new mums listening to this podcast. And this is in fact the second time I've chatted with the lovely Lauren, and I'll pop the link in the show notes for her previous episode, which was all about the first 24 hours after birth. So Lauren has, in this episode, she has a bit of her mum hat on and also her midwife hat on. So we interchange a bit between hearing about her beautiful story, but also interweaving that with some amazing tips for new mums or pregnant mums who are listening. As you know, every week at the moment, I am chatting with a lovely mum who shares her pregnancy journey, her birth story and afterbirth recovery as part of our Spilling the Milk series. And with these stories, we really do aim to provide a diverse range, a holistic range of birth stories, no matter what type of birth. And today's episode is with Lauren. So do be sure to share this episode with any friends who are pregnant, might be considering a caesarean, or perhaps they've recently had a caesarean, as I trust you and they will love it. Right, let's dive into this episode. Lauren, thank you so much for joining me today on the Fitness Mama podcast. I'm really excited to chat to you today about your journey in terms of being a mum of 4, and also your pregnancy journey. I know you've had 4 caesareans, and I'd love to also hear about your recovery. So thank you so much for sharing your story today.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
And we've done another interview, which I'll link in the show notes, where we discussed the first 24 hours after birth, what happens in those first 24 hours, because as I've just said in the intro, you're an amazing midwife, childbirth educator, so perfect. That was a brilliant episode. So this one, it's got a little bit of a different tangent. You're still probably going to have your midwife hat on and childbirth educator hat on, but also want to really hear your story, as a mum, busy mum, 4 children, as I said, juggling a business, juggling life. So to start with the question about your caesareans, let's go straight in for the big question.
Yep.
Tell us about this journey to choosing a caesarean, what that meant for you.
So first time around was kind of where the first decision for a caesarean came from. So I was in the private sector, had an amazing OB, different OB to the ones with the last 2, but still an amazing doctor. And my firstborn, Mason, he was breech. So he was bum first. And so there really it didn't really feel like I had much of a choice, to be perfectly honest. It was kind of like, the baby's breech, you're 34 weeks, we're going to book you in for a caesarean. That was kind of it. I don't know whether I look back and regret not knowing my options, or whether I go, okay, well, it was what it was, and that's what led you to where you are now. So it's a bit of a hard little battle there. But so there wasn't a whole lot of choice. It was, the baby's like this, we're having a caesarean, and that's that type thing. Then second time around, I obviously knew a little bit more. I was then a student midwife in my second year, almost about to go into my third year. And I was desperate for that vaginal birth after a cesarean. There was no option other than that. That was what I was doing. That's what I was having. I had everyone going, you're young, you've got this, like, you'll be able to do it easy. And then when I went into labor and my little one, Lila, she went into distress and they were like, we need an emergency cesarean. And I was like, yep, okay, done. That, decision made, like, she comes first.
Can I ask, why were you desperate for a vaginal birth?
I think just because I was taught at uni that was the goal and that was the birth that everyone should want and that everyone should have. But also the fact of wanting that initial connection with the baby. I did feel with my first Mason that real disconnect from having him born, shown to me, taken away. And, it was a good hour or two before I got to be reconnected and seen with him again. So I feel like I wanted that, what we'd learned in the textbooks, that initial, you're amazing, you've done this great birth, and then, you get that skin to skin with the baby. There's that ideology of that's the better option type thing.
Okay. So then moving into your third and fourth.
Yeah. So third time around, I was like, yep, this is easy. I'm booking a cesarean. I'm not doing that again. I'm not going through that again. So I was like, yep, cesarean, let's book it in. Let's book the date. His was textbook, straightforward, normal cesarean, nothing to write home about, beautiful experience. And then fourth time around, I was like, you know what? I want something different this time. I want the cesarean, but I still craved that connection that I lost. Yes, it was better second and third time. I had a bit more time with them. I wasn't separated like I was first time. But I was like, I want something else. I still want that. I craved that connection, that immediate, you're the first person to hold that baby. I really craved that side of things. So I went a little bit left field and I advocated for a maternal assisted cesarean fourth time around.
Yeah, amazing. And so for anyone listening, we've done quite a few topics on this, which is exciting. With the lovely Dr. Natalie Elphinstone, who also, she's an obstetrician who advocates it. So I'll put those links in the show notes too. Tell us about that. How did you find that process of advocating for, was it hard?
Yeah, it was hard. My obstetrician was a good friend. We have worked together for the last, a lot of years at the hospital. So I found that side of it quite easy in a sense because we did have that friendship. So it was, just kind of a conversation. I did get no initially. And then when I went into why, that's when the no turned to a yes. When I was like, look, I'm not doing this because I want to be, cool and hip and doing something, that's trendy. I want to do this because I've been craving this connection and I feel disconnected and I want to be involved in the process. I'm a midwife. I'm involved in everyone else's processes, but not my own process. And I feel like once I explained that, it was an easy yes. It was then, okay, yeah, you know what, write the policy, get the hospital on board and we'll do it and we'll go for it. So yeah, he was amazing. And actually what I love the most is that he's a local obstetrician here in the Southern Shire. So his name's Dr. Andrew Zushman, and he now does them for whoever wants them, which is like my favorite part about all of it.
Amazing. Just going back, it sounded like you wrote the hospital protocol.
Yes, I did.
Did you?
Yep, I did. So that was part of like the condition of doing it was like, right, you want to do it? You write the protocol.
Oh, I don't know what to think of that.
Well, I mean, I worked there, so, I've written protocols before. So they were like, you know what, you want to do it? You write it. And I was like, all right, sweet, can do.
That's taking your own birth advocacy to the next level, isn't it?
Yeah, a little bit.
But that's amazing. It's paved the way for all the future mums in the hospital to be able to, achieve their wishes if that's what they're after. So hats off to you, Lauren.
Thank you.
Amazing. I did not know that story.
Yeah. I feel like that's like my favorite part about all of it is the fact of like every time I see someone's video on Instagram or whatever of them doing that at the hospital that I work at, I'm like, oh, they wouldn't be able to do that if it wasn't for me. Like it's a really humbling, really nice feeling. Yeah.
Amazing. So talk us through, previously you'd had 3 what you call standard cesareans. How was this fourth maternal assisted caesarean birth different? Okay, talk us through, what steps were different? How was it different?
It was different in every way, like from feeling like not that I didn't feel like a person the other times, but you're more included. So that big blue drape that's put up right in front of your face that separates you from what they're doing, that wasn't there. So I literally am lying there and I can see their faces and they're actually talking to me. You then become part of that conversation. You become part of the process. So you've got that initial, you're conversating with them, you can't see what's going on. So a lot of people always go, oh my gosh, you saw them, cutting into your stomach. And I was like, no, you lie down, you've got this big belly in the way. I couldn't see a thing. I could just see their faces and I had that conversation. And one of the OBs that was in there, just before we got to the layer where he just gave my hand a little squeeze as if to be like, yeah, all right, you ready? Because I'm sterile and they're sterile. So he could do that, give my hand a little squeeze and like, you're about to meet your baby type thing. It just felt from that side of things, emotionally, you felt more involved in that process from the beginning. Then obviously you've got helping to deliver your own baby. So they get the head out, the shoulders out, and then guide your hands underneath the shoulders to help you pull that baby up and on. And I cannot describe to you that feeling of being able to lift your baby straight onto your chest. It was what I had been craving, that initial like, oh my God, like I've got this baby and I've done this and, I birthed this baby, I grew this baby and now I get to hold it type thing, and be the first to see him, and that's where he stayed.
And I can imagine from a physiological point of view, all those hormones, talk us through how you think that changed.
Yeah, so having all of those hormones straight away was just amazing. Like I definitely I feel like with the others, it wasn't that instant bond. I looked at them and I loved them, but it wasn't that overwhelming bond that everyone talks about. And I definitely attribute that to being separated and not seeing them for, a period of time whilst everyone else is off taking photos and looking at them and holding them and things like that. Whilst this time I had that overwhelming bond and I had that overwhelming love and protectiveness of him. And I still feel that way about him now. Like I don't like to leave him, and I didn't want to go back to work early this time whilst last time I went back early, just little things along the way that I'm like, our bond is so strong compared to what it was with the other kids.
Lauren, that's beautiful to hear about that connection. That's amazing that it made such a profound difference to how you perceived the whole birth experience.
Yeah. I feel like it just empowered me more than anything, to be honest. Like having those feelings of I did this was really empowering for me, especially being a midwife and being involved in so many births.
And I think those small things aren't to be underestimated too. Like what you said about the blue drapes, just removing the blue drapes, improving that connection, the communication between, I guess, the caregivers and yourself. Like it all makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah. I remember the first birth, they were literally they were on the other side of the drape doing the operation, and they were talking about cricket, because I distinctly remember being like, do I have to talk about cricket right now, like while I'm having my baby? And like you weren't a part of it. It was like they're on that side, you're on that side. Like it was very segregated and very separated.
It's like this area of healthcare is finally catching up to the 21st century.
Yeah.
Amazing. And were there any changes with, like we were discussing hormones before, were there any changes, do you think, with breastfeeding with your fourth compared to your previous one?
No, for me, I didn't notice a difference. So I have been lucky that I have had 4 very great breastfeeding. I mean, obviously there's challenges with every breastfeeding journey, but I have had good breastfeeding journeys. Even with the first being separated for, over an hour, I still did go on to have a really great breastfeeding journey with all of them. So I didn't personally notice any differences with breastfeeding, but I do know obviously from the literature that having that first hour of skin to skin and a potential first breastfeed, if possible, does help with long-term breastfeeding journeys.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting to note. Thank you so much for sharing sharing that experience. It sounded so empowering, so beautiful. We sort of skipped over the whole pregnancy side of things, but let's move on. Because your recovery after a caesarean, how did you find that? Both with Wilder, your youngest baby, and all 4 babies really. Because we do hear a lot about caesarean births being, just the other day I was listening to a post how they talked about all the recovery issues after a caesarean. How did you find recovery?
First time around, it was kind of like a slap in the face, to be perfectly honest. I had no idea what I was in for, as do most people, really. I thought, you're going to have this baby. It's the easy way out that people tell you. And then, they expect you to get up in 12 hours and be caring for this baby. And I was like, what? Like, what? And yeah, knew nothing. So I wasn't prepared. So I found the first time around healing the hardest out of all of them. Second, third got better as I went. And then fourth was my best healing out of all of them. I 100% attribute it to being prepared and knowing exactly what things are going to help me in my healing journey and exactly what things are going to make that healing journey worse or slower.
Let's go through a few of those. Now we're putting your midwife hat on, aren't we?
Midwife hat's on.
Today's episode is brought to you by Baby Jogger, making parents' lives easier. For active families, Baby Jogger will be your go-to. Their strollers are designed with your comfort and convenience in mind, allowing you to embrace the joys of parenthood while staying active. With Baby Jogger's well-known quick fold technology, you can effortlessly fold your stroller with just one hand, making it a breeze to store and transport. We know that every family has different needs, and Baby Jogger has you covered. They offer a wide range of lightweight, compact options from single to double strollers to all-terrain models. No matter your lifestyle, you'll find the perfect fit. Whether you're navigating through busy streets or tackling rough terrains, their strollers provide a smooth and enjoyable ride for both you and your little ones. And let's not forget about growing families. Whether you're expecting another child or planning for the future, Baby Jogger is there every step of the way. To learn more about their incredible strollers and find the perfect fit for your family, visit their website today on babyjogger.com.au and use the code FIT20, that's FIT20, for 20% off any full-priced product from Baby Jogger.
So first of all, throughout the pregnancy, I tried to prepare my body a little bit better. So I really did focus on health. I wasn't going to the gym. I see people going to the gym and I was always envious of them. I did not have the energy for that, but I would go for a short walk, every couple of days, if I could, every day, just a short walk, keep that exercise, keep all those muscles going. And I saw a women's health physio this time around, and I cannot express how much that helped in getting all of my muscles and getting my pelvic floor and everything better before I had the baby and strengthening everything before I had the baby. Then when I had him, I put my compression shorts on straight away. So had him, obviously you're in the bed for a little bit until you can get up and have that first shower. Once I got up and had that first shower, those compression shorts went on and made the world of difference, just helping to feel supported, not uncomfortable, not tight, but just supported, and to help get that blood flow moving again. Next was getting up in that first 12 hours. So there is so much research to say that if you get up out of bed in that first 12-hour period, obviously when your pain's well controlled, but getting up within 12 hours can really help get the oxygen back to your muscles and get the muscles moving again. You're not kind of all tense, and really starts to get that healing process going faster. So that they were kind of the main things that I did in the first little bit after birth that made the world of difference.
And what were some of the things that you didn't do?
So I didn't push myself this time. I feel like with a few of the other births, I wanted to be that mum that did everything. Like, yeah, I had a baby, but I can do this and I can do that. And this time around, I just went, I know it's bad, isn't it? This time around, I just went, no, I've had a massive operation. I have this beautiful baby and I'm just going to sit here and I'm just going to cuddle the baby. And if the dishes pile up or the laundry piles up, we can deal with that later. But the most important thing for me right now is to rest and rest with the baby.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And that was exactly the same experience as me. First baby, it's almost, I felt like it's matrescence, isn't it? It's a process of becoming a mother. And that doesn't happen overnight or just because you suddenly have a baby. It can take months and years. So I remember with my first baby, I thought this baby's not going to change my life. I'm still going to get up and do everything. And recovery was challenging. Whereas for my third, I just submitted.
Yeah.
Is that the right word? But to the process, I just was like, you know what? This is a phase of life I'm in. Enjoy it, recover, rest. Absolutely. Forget about the dishes, forget about the laundry.
Yeah.
For a few weeks, it doesn't matter. So interesting.
Yeah. And asking for help more, I feel the more kids I had, the more I wasn't ashamed to ask for help, to be like, hey, can you come over, like to my mother-in-law, can you come over and take the other kids, or to my mum, you know, can you come and help me with my washing and things like that, like not being afraid to ask people for help. Whereas previously I would have been like, oh gosh, you can't ask anyone to help me like that. This is my problem. This is my baby. I can't ask for help because I've chosen this.
Is there anything else that stands out that you didn't do that helped?
I didn't rely as much on the pain medication when I went home. The heavy, obviously I stayed on top of Panadol and Voltaren, but I did have a script going home for endone, and I didn't personally feel like I needed that fourth time around. And for, you know, the point of having to sit and strain on the toilet and getting constipated from those pain meds, I didn't go home with them. I did obviously take them in hospital and stay on top of that pain relief in hospital. But yeah, once I went home and I felt a bit more okay, I tried to avoid that and the constipation that came with that. But yeah.
And that's great you bring that up, because that's something really to be mindful of for all women, whether or not you have a caesarean or a vaginal, but particularly if you're on the pain medications, as you said, like endone. And there's a lot that we can do more proactively with that. If you do need to take endone, like having a chat to the healthcare team about, is there anything that you can have, you know, supplement on top of the endone to help with softening the bowel movement. So yeah, good point. Yeah. Okay, amazing.
Yeah, but I mean, it is important when you're in the hospital and when you've just first had that caesarean, it is important to stay on top of that pain relief, because if you do let it get out of control and you do, you know, just kind of ignore it, then it does snowball, and then we're, you know, ending on giving you more and worse pain relief because we can't get on top of it then. So it's a delicate balance between overuse and underuse.
And when they give the endone in the hospital or whatever pain relief it is, do they usually give that in combination with a stool softener? Or
I'm sure you saw my face.
You're laughing. No, okay.
No, they don't, which isn't great. So stool softeners, they won't generally give you until you ask for them, unless it's, you know, been 2 or 3 days and they go, oh, have you opened your bowels? And you go, no. And then you kind of, I feel like playing catch up, rather than if they kind of introduce those stool softeners early and, you know, you're not going to be running to the toilet, but just starting that process of getting your bowels moving again and having those bowel movements being soft, so you aren't sitting and straining with a potential caesarean wound there.
So an advocate for chatting with your healthcare team about whether or not they're appropriate for you sooner rather than later. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that's, again, for a vaginal or a caesarean birth, but particularly with the pain meds. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Yeah. Amazing. So I'd love to now dive more into your recovery, I guess, a bit further down the track. You know, those first few days and perhaps weeks have gone by, your pain has settled, you feel like you're recovering well. Talk us through, I guess in particular with the caesarean, what did that mean for you over the next few weeks and months? Like, what were some things that stood out with your recovery process?
What stood out the most was, again, trying not to push myself. So when you get into that period where you're like, oh, I feel good, I can go and do this with the kids, or, you know, you want to dive straight back into being full on mum and doing absolutely everything. So it was a lot of mental battle with myself to be like, yes, okay, you may feel fine and you may not be in pain, but you are still recovering, and you do still need to take it easy and rest when you can. So I feel like that was a really big thing this time around, where I was like, no, like, we're not picking up our toddler, we're not doing, you know, school pickup and drop off and rushing and doing all of these things, where previously I would have been like, yeah, I'm fine, I'll do it, like, I'm fine type thing.
So important, hey?
Yeah.
It's great to hear.
And then things like scar massage I didn't know about with the, you know, I feel like it's not a new thing, but more and more research is coming around it and more people are becoming aware of it and the benefits of how that can help with scar healing as well. So something like that, once the scar was healed and once I wasn't in pain, I started scar massage. And I definitely think that helped with recovery this time around as well.
Yeah, good to know. And actually I want to get a specialist to talk about that, because there is, and again, this is a whole different topic, but the keloid scars massage might not be appropriate for certain types of scars too. So that's an area, I want to have it. I definitely want to get someone on to chat about that, because it's definitely an area that's growing in terms of research.
Yes.
Yeah, it's exciting. And talk us through because you're a busy mum, right? You've got 4 children. How do you do it, Lauren?
Oh, I don't know, to be honest. I think that to myself all the time, like, how do I do this? Why did I do that? No, I'm kidding. I think it's just one of those things where you just kind of feel like you're constantly rushing and running and on autopilot. And then when you do slow down, you're like, oh, wow, we do a lot. But when you're in that motion, it doesn't feel like you're doing a lot, because that's just what you're used to and you just kind of have to do it, really. But yeah, no, it's good. It's good. And the kids, we've got bigger age gaps. So ours aren't, I don't have 4 under 4. I have a 9-year-old. So he is a massive help with us as well. They obviously all have their chores and their things that they have to do, but they love each other so much that if you're like, oh, could you go and help your brother with this? It's like, yes, because they love each other. There's no argument to help with each other, which is really nice as well, and definitely makes it easier.
What's your tip there?
Include them. Honestly, from birth, if you have siblings, everything's so much harder and so much longer, but we let them do everything that they wanted. If you want to help change a nappy, you help change a nappy. If you want to hold the baby, hold the baby. Like we included them in as much as they wanted to be included in, and didn't really say no around helping with the baby unless obviously it was a dangerous thing. And I generally think that is the best way to reduce any jealousy, because they feel like they're involved and that's their role to help and provide.
Yeah, lovely. How does what are the age gaps? 9, 6?
Yeah, 9, 6, 3, 1. So they're like all 3 years apart. Yeah.
Amazing. And is Wilder is he toddling? Like, is he walking around?
Yeah, he's like pretty much running. Like wherever the kids are, you just see this like little body running after them wherever they go.
So I was going to say, that's when it starts to is that suddenly been really busy since he started walking? Yeah. So you can't go and just sit and have these like relaxing lunches with him in a high chair anymore. It's just like, where can we go that has a park somewhere fenced in that he can run? Yeah, you always know the local fenced in parks, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and then he's at that, 15, 16-month age where they go through that separation anxiety as well. So it's very clingy. You feel like your hips are constantly like out of line because you've got a child on your hip constantly 24/7.
Yeah. And let's talk about that. Do you feel like you've got your strength back again?
I don't, but I'm not a very strong person, and I've tried to prioritize, going to the gym and trying to get stronger, but every time I try and commit to it, something comes up or someone gets sick or, all of that kind of stuff. So I don't feel like I have prioritized myself and my health as much as I should be, but I am trying.
That's a whole topic there.
Yeah.
I'd love to ask you about that.
Don't be like me.
Do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah, please.
Well, I can understand. You're a busy mum of 4. You've got a business. You've got life. And our recovery often falls to the bottom of the to-do list, even though you've invested, your body's been put on the line 4 times for these 4 beautiful babies. As I say all the time, we've got menopause on our doorstep. Like, really, it's blink. Sorry. But
I know.
Less for you, more for me. But I think this stage between pregnancy, postpartum and menopause is really the stage we do want to try to reimburse back into our body, because once menopause hits, it's like another insult to the body, so to speak, putting it not in a nice way. But this is the time we want to add that buffer. So Or like, what would your goals be from a physical perspective? Like, what would you want to get back to doing, or how do you want to be feeling from your physical recovery standpoint?
Well, I did actually have a consultation with a naturopath, and that was really amazing and empowering. And, she gave me this list of bloods to go and get checked to see, if I was still deficient. I've been iron deficient through all of my pregnancies, and I'm sure I am currently. But yeah, just this list of all these bloods to go and get checked and see, if we need to add any supplements or, increase diet, certain things. And that's been sitting in my handbag, that blood test form, for, I kid you not, probably a month.
Oh, it's so hard, isn't it?
Step one would be going and actually getting those bloods and seeing, where my baseline bloods lie. And if I do need to add certain fruits or vegetables or things to help, especially calcium. When you're breastfeeding, calcium is such an important thing to have in your body and in your system, constantly replenishing what your body's giving to that baby. So I feel like that would be my starting point for trying to focus on healing from now, would be focusing on that, and then slowly focusing more on the exercise side of things. So trying to do something. I mean, I play netball, but I don't feel like it's strength building. I feel like I'd want to go, to a gym with someone who knows what they're doing and could teach me more how to, strengthen certain areas, especially your hips, especially your arms and things where you are carrying a baby all the time, and, going and seeing that women's health physio again, or even a chiropractor to kind of, realign your body and things like that would be what I would want to prioritize for healing now-ish.
Yeah. And I love the fact that you're thinking about it from a holistic point of view, because you're right. If you're sort of battling uphill in terms of fatigue and energy levels, it's really tricky, isn't it? So getting on top of all that first is, it's amazing. It's not easy, and it's always a work in progress, isn't it?
Yeah, always is.
Yeah. Oh, you're doing an amazing job. To finish off with, Lauren, do you have any final words of wisdom? I guess, being a mum of 4, having business, like working, like any final words of wisdom or any piece of advice you want to impart on any pregnant women or new mums that are listening today?
Yeah, my biggest piece of advice is to be educated. And I guess that's where I started the classes, being educated on what to expect and also how to best manage that is the best thing to do, really, to be aware of how you can maximize your healing and how you can focus on yourself and really rest. If you have that knowledge on how you can best maximize your healing and things like that, then you will be more likely to focus on rest, because you're like, no, actually, I know that that's what I should be doing. I know that I shouldn't be trying to rush around and do all of these things that I really don't need to be doing right now. So taking it easy, knowing that if something doesn't go to plan, if you were planning for a vaginal birth and did end up in a caesarean, or if you did have a caesarean and your baby needed to go to the nursery and things like that, just knowing that there are still a million other ways that you can bond. And it doesn't mean you won't be able to bond or breastfeed with your baby if you are separated for some reason. So not being so hard on yourself and not blaming yourself is definitely my biggest tip that I want to stress for all families all over the world who are listening, just to not put so much blame and so much pressure on yourself in that postpartum period.
Oh, I love it. Yeah. And I think postpartum period, but also motherhood, you know, like the recovery and exercise has come up a few times, and there's so many mums that can't exercise. They're feeling exhausted and tired, and you know what? That's the phase of life that we're in. So fantastic. Thank you so much for joining me, Lauren. How can mums who want to come and find you, how can they find you?
Yeah, so you can jump over to Instagram and you can find me at One Mama Midwife, or if you're wanting to book antenatal classes, if you are in the Sutherland Shire, www.onemamamidwife.com.
Amazing. Thanks so much for joining me today and taking a moment out of your busy schedule. I really do appreciate it.
No, thank you for having me. It's been great.
Amazing. We'll chat to you soon.
Thanks. Bye.
Before I sign off, remember my team will be putting together the show notes for this episode with all the links, including how to connect with Lauren at fitnessmama.com/podcast. And don't forget to send Lauren and myself a DM on Instagram. We would love to hear from you. Have a fabulous day, everyone, and I look forward to you joining me next week for another episode of the Fitness Mama podcast. Thanks for listening to the Fitness Mama podcast, brought to you by the Fitness Mama freebies found at www.fitnessmama.com/free. So please take a few seconds to leave a review, subscribe so you don't miss an episode, and be sure to take a screenshot of this podcast, upload it to your social media, and tag me at Fitness Mama so I can give you a shout out too. Until next time, remember, an active pregnancy, confident childbirth, and strong postnatal recovery is something that you deserve. Remember our disclaimer: materials and contents in this podcast are intended as general information only and shouldn't substitute any medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. I'll see you soon.